So this is day 4 of Blenduary. We're creating a spider. What could go wrong? I'm going to tell you now there's quite a few things that go wrong, but we fixed them, don't worry. Day 1 we did a ripple. Day 2 we did a crystal. Day 4 we did the whole workshop. We just did a hammer. And let's get going. So I put in a UV sphere and then press G and Z to like lift it up, and I did shave it smooth, and I'm not sure why. It's just preference, right? Like I don't like seeing all the little lines and stuff. I did it again because I wanted to make some eyes, and I grabbed it up, and then this like just took me some time to realize what was going wrong with it, like because I was trying to like rotate it round, and it was set to the origin or the world origin, right, the global origin, rather than the individual model. And it was like I couldn't work out why. But then if you click that tab there and you do it to the origin point, you can change it way easier. Oh, by the way, all the keys that I pressed are in the bottom left hand corner. So if you're actually trying to follow along and stuff, like you can check there. And if you just want to laugh at all my errors, then you can also do that. I moved it across and I wanted to mirror, right? So I tried to mirror a weird way. I just had a brain fog. And so you go to modifier and you go to generate and you go to mirror, and then you use a little pipette and you pick the main object and it will mirror to the axis that you chose. So I chose the X axis right here. So now we've got both of our eyes, like we're all good. So I'm going to add in a cube, shift A, add the mesh, just a cube, and then I'm going to add a subdivision modifier by going to modifiers and clicking the one. I increase it to 3 and 3 on the render and the other one. And then you have to apply it for this bit. So if you want to do sculpting, you have to apply it, because otherwise you just have the cube still. It looks different, but it isn't actually applied, so it doesn't make any difference when you come into the sculpting. So you don't have the geometry to change any shape, right? I then chose grab, and if you press F you can adjust the size and stuff, and I just started playing around. I started to drag things across and move them because I wanted to make some mandibles. Not like fierce ones, just some little cutie like big 2 front teeth kind of vibe going on there. Like I'm not trying to make too much, and I put a little dent I didn't like too much, and to soften it I just used the smooth tool, went back to the grab, and then I had this pesky little point that was jarring me. So I just pressed tab and I isolated it and I moved it individually, and that helped smooth out the whole look, and I was happy from that point. So I went and shaded it smooth because I don't like all the squiggly bit, and I did the same modifier with the mirroring of it, and I basically got my Spidey's little head where I wanted it to go. I moved the mandibles a bit closer, but all the bits made for that were kind of done. From that I kind of had to make the legs, so I decided to use a cube for this. I could use a cylinder I suppose, but I went for a cube. I messed around with the size, pressing S to change the size, and then pressing the letter of the axis to be able to isolate that axis out. And I didn't want them super long, so I went about there, and then I added a subdivision modifier, upped it to 3 on both, and applied it. And I could have done this with loop cuts and everything like that, but I just wanted to actually, I don't know, mess around with the rotation and grabbing like the points and doing it that way. So all I'm really doing is grabbing a section, rotating it, grabbing it again and moving it to try and create some movement, some like, so the legs aren't so straight and you can see like some bends. I didn't really want to add joints as such, but because I wanted to be like cartoony, it's not like this like horror. I was gonna do a fantasy spider, I'm not gonna lie, and then I thought like I always make things like dark and a bit scary sometimes when I'm drawing on that, so I chose to go for the softer approach. So I did some nice little flowy curves, and because I was gonna add hair, like I didn't add any detail or anything, I just left it like that, and I basically then duplicated it. I got it into position. I did the mirror again, but the positioning just took a little while, to be honest. Like I think it's important to get it right, and that just means taking some time. Like this one looks like it's got some earlobe issues, like it's too high up. So finding the right position on the body and messing around, I think just take your time if you're doing this. Like if you're following along, like thanks, I appreciate it. I hope this is helping. It definitely is a learning process, Blender. Like I said, I'm doing this to learn about Blender, and if you're enjoying it or if you've got any tips for me, please throw them in the comments. If you're enjoying the video, then subscribe to the channel and you can always get updates. And here I'm just duplicating the legs because I'm not making them all again. I'm not doing this process again. I'm just making 8 legs, they're the same, and all I'm really doing is changing the size and rotating it round so that they fit to the body better than if I was just to duplicate them and leave them as they were. But apart from that, I'm just duplicating. I ain't taking the time to make each one individually. Not for this. It's not really the purpose of this. So I'm just checking it off, having a look around. Like, I think this is really good. Oh, by the way, if you don't know how to do that, then that's just like the middle button and then move the mouse. So this is how the fur is meant to look. So I added a mesh, a sphere in the mesh mode. I shaded it smooth as always, and I love the emitter one, but we're doing hair. So you get this crazy like puffball, and you can adjust the hair length, right? And you can increase the number of hairs that you have and stuff. And then if you do hair dynamics, like it reacts to the world. So you can do stiffness. Now the stiffness will change how the hair like lays in gravity and stuff. So the more stiff it is, like the more upright it will be. And then if you do interpole and then you change the length a little bit, you get like this really nice like fluffy area. Now I did clumping because I wanted it to like some of the hairs like clump together a little bit to make it look a lot more like animally. And then I kind of just lost what I was doing a little bit. Like I think I was overthinking it, and I was trying to do like all this, but air drag is what I was really looking for, and 1 is fine for what I wanted. I wanted it to move in the wind, like, well, not move in the wind, but as it moves I wanted it to like flow a little bit, right? So then I didn't want it to be like this color, so I went to materials and I changed it to principled hair, and I just chose a color. Like I love the color purple, so I chose a color purple. Surprise, surprise to everyone that knows me. I basically then wanted to animate this a little bit because I just wanted to show you what it's meant to look like and how easy it's meant to be, and not the mess that it become later on, right? So you can I did it for 20 seconds. You can pick where it is, so you select on the time zone and then you press I after moving it, but make sure you do the time first, otherwise you kind of like override what you've done. And for each one you do I, and it sets a new keynote, and that basically, as you can see, like it starts to move around and you can see the fluff. I did it way too quick, but that's the basic principle of the fluffy moving thing, right? So I then started to do the same thing for my spider's head, and that seemed to all be going okay. What I was really annoyed about was I was struggling to make the hair not go in the eyes, right? But to speed it along for you a little bit, like basically I watched a video and they just moved the eyes forward. I'm sure there's a way of like only putting the hair on specific areas, but like I don't have the time today to go into that or to find out. So it was a lot of messing around today already to try and get this just to work, because like it worked okay for here. Like the same thing, I went through the settings, changed a few things, realized I don't need to even look at a lot of this stuff for what I was doing, and I was really happy with this kind of like look. And what I kind of worked out is that if I drag the eyes out, the hair doesn't interact in the same way with them, which is cool. Like for this, it's fine. Like I said, this is playing around, me learning. Like I'm not too fixated. I wanted the eyes to be like looking apart a little bit, to be looking a little bit goofy and stuff, so I just rotated them, and the mirroring's still on, so that's fine. The legs, I then tried to add hair, and this is where it went so wrong. Like I tried to do them all and that just wouldn't happen, so I had to do them individually, and I didn't know how to transfer the setting or save the setting so it would go across. So that's the button right there, that hair dynamics, that messed up everything for me. I mean like everything. And so yeah, like I was messing around with these and I did everything the same, I did all like the stiffness and all this kind of stuff, but I did like that single button, and I did it for each leg, and I went through. I tried to find a way of like copying it and going across all of the other legs. So if you do know how to do that, please like write in the comments. You know what I mean? But it's something I'm gonna find out to do for the next time, because it just would save so much time to like put the same effects across. There must be a way. I'm just not seeing it, right? So I added material for the spider. I did the purple. You know what it was gonna be. I did the same thing for this, and again, like I should be able to transfer this material, and I don't know why it didn't, but it just didn't. So it is what it is. I think I could select it so it was quicker, but I couldn't add all the hair and stuff. So again, I was trying to do it on all of them, just wasn't working. I was gonna leave it like this because it was just jarring me at this point. But I decided I was gonna firm it. I was gonna add the physics to each one. So did the hair length and all this. So I'll sped this up so you ain't gotta keep watching it over and over again. But like that hair dynamics, when I pressed it, it started to mess up the whole thing of adding the keynotes and the animation bit. That was what the problem was. It wasn't a problem here, it was a problem later on. I tried to do this where I selected the faces, the eyes, and I tried to add a new material just on this section, but that didn't work for some reason. Again, it's something I want to look into, so if you know how to do that, then let me know. So I cheated and I just added a pupil. So I created another UV sphere and I put it there. I flattened it down a bit with the scaling of the whole thing, and then I placed it into the eye, and I added the material to that rather than trying to faff around. At this point I had spent too much time on this. Like I knew I had to edit it and still get it out today, so I did what I could with the knowledge and the skills that I currently have. But this is not how you do it, but this is how I managed to do it right now today, right? So I did the mirror, I did the same thing. I mirrored it to the main object. So my spider looked like some creepy fluff ball, not tarantula, but thinks it's a tarantula, and I then added a web. So I literally just made a cylinder, narrowed it down. I didn't even add any detail. I just made sure the base was white on it. I made it super long so it went out of the view. And I know that you should do all this filming with like the camera and the rendering and stuff, but that's not something I've really learned right now. So all I did is I used the screen that I had, and this is what happened, right? This is what happened. This took me so long to work out what was wrong. Like I actually got to the point where I was just gonna give up. I was gonna give up. Like I just made it move by clicking the middle button in the screen and moving it side to side. Like, oh, it did my nutting for time. I can't even lie about how annoying this was. To add the keynotes though, just so you know, like you just press I, so you pick your time you want it to, you move your model to position, you press I and it adds a keynote. Make sure you move the time before you do the next one, or you just wipe over what you've just done. Doesn't make sense, it's super annoying. I did solve the problem eventually. I went through and I unticked that hair dynamics button, and it stopped it from doing this madness that you see right now, like literal madness. And then I was able to, once I had figured that out and sorted that out, I then added the keynote. So this is what I'm saying, like I screen recorded this because I was about to give up on the whole scenario. I even then did it like this because again, I was about to give up on the whole animation side of it and stuff. I'm so glad I didn't. Like this is where perseverance, like it pays off, right? Perseverance pays off, and you just got to keep going with it. So I know that this video has some good points and some bad points, but I really hope you stay tuned for tomorrow's episode, and thanks for watching.